Welcome to the Maura Sweeney podcast. Maura is an international speaker, Huffington Post contributor, and the trademarked ambassador of happiness. In 10 minutes or less, Maura weaves clever anecdotes, insightful questions, and personal stories to challenge your mindsets and enable you to live happier from the inside out. Here's Maura with today's podcast for you.
Have you ever cried out for help and weren't sure if anybody in the universe was listening? Well, if you're on a path to living happy from the inside out, today's podcast will offer you not only encouragement, but an inspiring way to look at your current or past circumstances. Help, help! I often think about the very popularized commercial here in the United States that says, "Help, I've fallen and I can't get up." And it's the picture of an elderly person all by themselves, usually in their kitchen, and they have fallen and they feel very vulnerable and they're calling on this device for external help. And you know in their minds that they're not sure if anybody's going to hear them and can someone come and quote unquote save them. The reason I believe why that commercial has been so successful for decades is not just for the elderly person that may need to order the device, but it's because we all at some time or another in our lives feel that we want to call out for help, and we're not sure if anyone or anything in the universe is actually hearing our cry for help. Crying for help can actually be something other than what you think. We may not be crying just for help, but we may have a different cry, one that says, "Help! I'm growing and I'm not sure how." Do you hear that? Help! I'm growing and I'm not sure how. I want to start with two visuals that come from nature because everybody will understand this. One of them is the chick that's emerging from its shell. The second is a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. When both of these creatures emerge, we're always so happy. We love seeing butterflies fly, and we all think it's so cute to see a chick come out of his or her shell and shake their little wings and I guess put off all the little shell pieces that they had been under. We celebrate them. We understand that in nature this is a great thing. They've transformed from a small venue, from maybe something that was very vulnerable, and moved into something strong. What I'm not sure everybody thinks about when they think of these little animals and their growth is that if someone or something external were to try to help these animals emerge, the animals themselves would not be strong enough or suitable enough to not only survive, but even to thrive in their new environments. That external help at times isn't there in our lives because there's something within us that is necessary for personal growth. In the same way that a little chick has to gain his or her strength by pecking their way out of the shell from the inside, and as the butterfly has to constantly develop strength in its wings to emerge from that cocoon, sometimes our soul needs room to grow and uses the challenges that life presents us in order to do that very thing. I want to give you two things that came back to me this morning when I was contemplating this podcast, and they go way back. The first was when I stepped into college for the first time. I lived in my local town, went to public school, and I was thrilled to be going away to university in another city in another state. But what I didn't bank on was the upgrade in academics. I could remember coming out of classes and thinking, oh my gosh, I just had 3 classes and every professor is asking me to read 100 pages before my next class. I was not accustomed to that, and I remember feeling very vulnerable and ill-equipped compared to a lot of my fellow classmates who had come from more rigorous academic backgrounds, maybe some prep schools, private schools, whatever. I also remember being in freshman year composition and realizing that my writing skills were not up to course and not up to par. And I remember having to go every single week by my own volition to visit that professor for extra help so that I could bring my skills up to a level that was commensurate with everyone else. It would have been easy for me to blame my problems on a teacher that didn't like me or circumstances outside of me, but it was too important for me that I acquire whatever skills I didn't have so that I could not only be on par, but take those skills somewhere in my future, which I did. The next memory that came back was a couple of years after that, and I was studying abroad in Spain. It was a semester abroad program. Now, for those of you who are younger, and even those who are not, it was way before the era of cell phones, free texts, and especially free and unlimited Skype calling, where you could literally see and interact with someone that you missed. In my case, I greatly missed my boyfriend, who ultimately became my husband. To give you an example of how slowly time was moving in that semester when I was in Spain, if I wrote him a letter and sent it in the mail, he wouldn't get it for another 7 days. And the same was true when he would write to me. So it felt like I was in an endless place, not something that was going to take several months, but would literally take several years to endure. It was very easy to just say, I'm going to step back and I'm going to go home. But it wasn't easy because it was so important for me to do what I had always set out to do and to make sure I ran the course and stayed. Another piece of that same semester came back to me as well on another note. At the time, I was living with a señora. She was an older woman. She lived on the outskirts of town, and our classes were not only earlier in the day, but we would go back to classes in Madrid in the evenings, which meant I would come home in the winter late at night when it was dark. And I remember one night coming home and there was a man following me, and he proceeded to follow me into my apartment building. And if you're familiar at all with a lot of these buildings in Europe, they have timers on the lights. And not only was I disturbed that this man was following behind me and in the building, but that the lights went off. I felt, talk about vulnerable, and I wanted to say, help, help, which I actually did as I scurried up a couple of levels of stairs, and my señorita or señora answered the door for me. I was working on a very limited budget, but I felt very vulnerable. I was not in a position where I could call on parents or anybody else to help me. And what I ended up doing was finding a different place to live. It cost me more, but it was in a much more secure and happier venue. It meant that I came home a little bit thinner because I ended up using my dinner money to pay for a better place to live. But I knew by the time I came back from Spain, not only did I secure an additional education, not only did I get some cultural training and maybe get enriched with Spanish literature, but I came home from that experience. Even though a couple of times I wanted to say, help, help, I came home and I had grown. There were things within me that I hadn't anticipated, hadn't really welcomed, but because of going through them, and specifically going through them alone, I knew when I came home from that semester in Spain that I was a new person. So much so that I remember returning back to Boston College for my senior year. I felt like I already graduated, and it was almost like going back to a smaller venue. So you may be going through something in life right now on a number of levels, but know that there may be a place within your soul that's calling you, wooing you to grow, and to grow so that when you come to the end of that journey, you may not have liked the journey itself, just like the chick may not have appreciated the fact that he had a lot of work to do to get out of that shell, but you will come out of it equipped and ready internally at levels you cannot really point to that have prepared you for where you're going to go next. So I hope today will give you something encouraging to think about, something inspiring, the ability to see light at the end of a tunnel, because even as you keep your focus on things like that, you may find the trip will go a little bit more quickly. Well, that's been my thought for you today, but before we go, let's hang on because there's someone that wants to share with us what makes them happy from the inside out too. This has been Maura with More For You.
Hello, my name is Floris Lohaus. I'm Dutch and American, now living in the Netherlands. And one thing that really makes me happy is going to the pet stores and looking at fish and animals and being able to just watch them interact with each other, and that's what makes me happy.
For more insights on living happy from the inside out, subscribe to this podcast. To learn more about Maura, visit her moraforyou.com website, where you'll find videos, blogs, books, and the Foundations of Happiness self-study e-course. Maura, 4, letter U.com, where Maura is always for you.